As Vikir slashed the huge spider from within, he could see red gashes on Madame Eight Legs. Suddenly, one of the spider's eyes started to bulge as he blasted his way out. Surprised, everyone watched as Vikir emerged from the spider's body. They observed in awe as the giant spider fell. As the dust settled and debris scattered, Vikir lay on the ground next to Madame Eight Legs' corpse. As the poison began to envelop Vikir's body, he realized that the spider's blood also contained venom, and it appeared that the spider was nearing death. Knowing he had to act fast to flush out the poison, Vikir attempted to do so, but his body was too weak, and he fell into a deep slumber. Suddenly, Vikir's hand rose up, surrounded by a red aura, indicating Beelzebub's awakening. The red aura shot towards the spider's corpse, extracting Madame Eight Legs' essence. The spider awoke abruptly, only to witness Beelzebub extracting her life force, along with the essences of the other creatures he had consumed during his residency within Vikir's body. The three-headed hound, a manifestation of Beelzebub's power, commanded the beast to assail Madame Eight Legs. Without hesitation, the three-headed beast began to bite at the spider's legs, back, and neck. In and out of consciousness, Vikir caught sight of Ayin, who warned him about the dangerous proximity of the poison. Through his fading awareness, he could make out Ayin's tear-streaked face, pleading with him not to die yet, unfinished words hanging in the air. As he slipped back into unconsciousness, Vikir missed her final words. Moments later, he stirred awake, lacking the strength to move, but reassured the others that he was all right and urged them to quiet down. Ayin's loud voice provided a strange comfort, allowing Vikir to rest. Visibly shaken, and with tears in her eyes, Ayin approached Vikir, expressing her worry and frustration, calling him stupid. Beelzebub, having finished extracting Madame Eight Legs' essence, reverted back to his small size. Vikir now possessed new upgrades. In slot 1, he had Deadly Poison Madame Eight Legs. In slot 2, Silent Hill Mushusu A Plus was available. And in slot 3, there was Super Regeneration Muddy Bog Salamander A Plus. Days later, the people of the Balak tribes were found intoxicated, sleeping on the ground after what appeared to be a lively party. The Night Fox, leader of the tribes, sat with another Balak warrior atop Madame Eight Legs' corpse. Below them, Vikir inquired about the duration of the festival, amused by the tribe's penchant for celebrations in the dense forest. Approaching Ayin's wolf named Bakira, Vikir asked about his health, engaging in conversation with the wolf. Observing that Bakira had lost a leg in the battle against Madame Eight Legs, Vikir also noted that the wolf had asserted dominance over another male wolf and now had a mate. Proud of Bakira's resilience, Vikir rubbed his thick white fur. Looking at the palm of his hands where Beelzebub resided, Vikir noted that after defeating Madame, he was now able to wield the seventh fang, albeit not perfectly. It was the reward he received for accomplishing the feat of killing Madame. However, he also realized that his understanding of combat had increased through the life and death battle he had endured. Considering how Hugo could currently only use the seventh fang, Vikir found it impressive, but he acknowledged that his own seventh fang was incomplete. A direct confrontation with the Swordmaster Hugo might still pose a challenge. Nevertheless, compared to before, Vikir had become unbelievably strong. Having completed his objective in the dense forest, it was time for him to return to Baskerville. With determination, he ripped the garland of flowers from around his neck. As the scene shifted, Vikir appeared dressed in his Baskerville outfit, black pants, white shirt, and a brown cloak. He approached the Balak tribe and thanked the Night Fox for accepting his proposal to leave. The Night Fox simply replied that there was no reason to stop Vikir from departing the tribe. "Once a family, always a family," she said. "Even if we are apart, our connection as a family will not break. No matter when, no matter where you are the hunting leader of Baroque. Do not forget this," the Night Fox concluded. Once again, Vikir expressed his gratitude to the Night Fox. As he glanced around at the Balak people, he searched for Ayin but couldn't find her. "I guess it can't be helped since she doesn't like that I'm leaving," Vikir thought to himself. With a resigned sigh, he turned to leave the Balak village. Cheers erupted among the Balak people as they bid their farewells. Ahun and his sister shouted out, assuring Vikir that he was always welcome to return and that they would wait for him there, urging him to stay in regular contact. With a smile, Vikir emerged from the dense forest, but halted as he noticed Ayan holding something for him. Saddened by Vikir's departure, Ayan questioned whether he was truly leaving. Without waiting for a response, she presented him with a wrapped bow, urging him to take it with him. Blushing slightly, Ayan explained that it was Anubis, the great bow once used by Lord Adonis, and she had worked on it a bit so that Vikir could use it. Realization dawned on Vikir as he understood why he hadn't seen Ayan for a while. Ayan had also attached a choker with a broken chain. When Vikir was unconscious, he mumbled about chains and hunting dogs, prompting Ayan to make it for him. She pressed on, affirming that Vikir was not a hunting dog. No hunting dog acted like him. Ayan declared that Vikir was a wolf, and it would be strange for him to be bound by chains. Vikir never anticipated hearing such words from Ayan. Vikir's words were cut short as Ayan gently tugged on Vikir's broken chain and leaned in to kiss him. Unable to meet Vikir's gaze, tears began to well up in Ayan's eyes. She walked past Vikir, her voice quivering as she mentioned that people of the Empire bid farewell in this manner. "Stay safe and have a safe journey," she murmured softly before heading towards the dense forest. Vikir, taken aback by the unexpected gesture. "I never knew the Empire had a custom like that." As Ayan continued walking, he added, "Let's see each other again, Ayan." His words caused her to pause mid-stride. With a determined effort, she wiped away her tears and looked back at Vikir with a trembling smile. "See you?" she called out before disappearing into the dense forest, her heart heavy with emotion. Standing atop a cliff within Baskerville territory, Vikir gazed down at the underground town sprawled below. Amidst the empty streets, he noticed a statue bearing his likeness. The sight of Red All Castle stirred memories. It had been a long while since he last set foot here. Observing the two clan flags fluttering in the wind, Vikir deduced that the Morgs were present, their continued mining of rubies indicating an ongoing partnership with the Baskervilles. Vikir pondered whether Camus was still present in the town. Already fatigued by the anticipation of their inevitable critique upon meeting, he descended from the cliff, noticing the encroaching lateness of the hour. Realizing he would need to stay in town for the night, Vikir set out to find the nearest inn. As he made his way towards the town center, Vikir's attention was drawn to a striking gold statue. Puzzled by its presence, he wondered why the townsfolk had erected it, knowing that such a monument would require approval from both families. He speculated if Hugo had permitted its construction. Suddenly, an abrupt voice shattered Vikir's thoughts. "You there! What are you doing?" a guardsman demanded, appearing seemingly out of nowhere. "Don't touch the hero's statue. If you're trying to take a piece of gold from it, I won't forgive you. Don't touch it, only look at it from afar." "Hero?" Vikir questioned, puzzled by the guardsman's assertion. In response, the guardsman assumed that Vikir might be a foreigner unfamiliar with the statue's significance. "To think there is still someone within the Empire who doesn't know about him," the guardsman remarked, his tone tinged with surprise. "As someone who was there when it happened, I can't hold back," he continued, his eyes shining with admiration. "The power to slay countless barbarians with just a sword, and his gallantry and bravery when facing perilous situations," the guardsman remarked, admiration evident in his voice. "He saved the weak and beloved daughter of the Morg family, and his noble sacrifice, buying time for the united forces to essate while he valiantly battled the monstrous foe," he continued, recounting the hero's deeds. "His tale evokes such strong emotions that it makes me tremble," the guardsman confessed passionately. "It is out of gratitude for all he has done that the Morg family passionately carved this gold statue of him." Dumbfounded, Vikir realized that the story the guardsman recounted was none other than his own Vikir van Baskerville. Supposedly, he was hailed as a great hero who had lived in the town just 2 years prior. Despite the guard's continued admiration, Vikir couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He tugged on his cloak, attempting to hide his face from the attention. In one of the inns, the triplet sisters began reminiscing about Vikir. The first sister, slightly intoxicated, confessed, "I still haven't forgotten the way my heart skipped when I first saw Sir Vikir." The second sister, holding a mug of liquor, chimed in, "You're right. I simply thought he was just a pretty boy." The third sister nodded in agreement with them both. The guardsmen around the triplets joined in, affirming their statements. They declared that they recognized Vikir's worth the first time they laid eyes on him. "There it is," exclaimed one of the heads of the fortress, recalling stories about Sir Vikir. "He had charisma, how should I put it?" one of the triplet sisters remarked, reminiscing about their encounters with Vikir. She expressed a desire to get closer to him despite the challenges. Nonetheless, they had conversed with him often when they first met, although they were occasionally interrupted by the Baskerville family members. With a sigh, the triplet sister continued, reflecting on how seeing Vikir made all exhaustion vanish from her body. "That gold statue over there doesn't even capture half of Sir Vikir's true beauty," she concluded. In the other corner of the inn, Vikir listened in slightly as the triplets discussed his beauty and bravery. He couldn't help but note how different their perceptions were from his own memories of the past. Was it possible that the accomplishments achieved by Adolf Morg and the combined forces were being credited to him? Despite his doubts, Vikir acknowledged that he had indeed fought Madame in the end. Thanks to the chatty triplets, he found himself privy to some unexpected information. 2 years ago, after Vikir's disappearance, Hugo Le Baskerville was furious and made repeated visits to the Morg family, causing quite a scene. Despite the Morg family offering a significant compensation to the Baskerville family, Hugo's anger seemed unyielding. As Vikir sipped on his beer, he concluded that Hugo had lost a valuable asset in him, so it was only natural for him to be furious. Additionally, Vikir believed that the compensation received from the Morg family wasn't sufficient to placate Hugo's rage. Vikir's attention returned to the triplets as they continued their conversation. One of the sisters remarked that if he were alive, they would have made a great couple. Another disagreed, suggesting that if he were alive, he would have surely been won over by her. The third sister laughed, playfully urging her siblings not to quarrel over Vikir, proposing that they could all date him. After enduring the triplets' squabble over him, Vikir reached his limit and rose from his seat, promptly paying the barkeep for his drink. Suddenly, one of the sisters noticed Vikir standing up and called out to him, labeling him as suspicious. All eyes turned towards Vikir, but he kept his back turned to them. Another sister scolded her sibling, noting that the barbarians had been quiet lately, so there was no reason for her sudden suspicion, attributing it to her inebriation. However, the suspicious triplet insisted that her instincts were telling her something was off about Vikir, commanding him to come closer. Vikir, trying to ignore her, glanced back slightly. "How dare you ignore me?" she exclaimed. Suddenly, green vines began to entangle around Vikir's legs, causing him to jump up in surprise, startling both the triplets and the guards. As Vikir landed steadily on his feet, he found himself surrounded by the triplets and guards, all with weapons drawn and aimed at him. "Who are you? Take off your hood and tell us who you are," demanded one of the guards. Growing irritated, Vikir muttered that it didn't matter, as he intended to inform the Baskerville family of his return anyway. With a resigned sigh, he lifted his hood, causing the triplets to blush simultaneously as they admired Vikir's appearance. One of the guards swiftly noticed Vikir's face, noting that his expression seemed somewhat off, yet reminiscent of the statue's depiction. With red eyes and black hair, the guard deduced that the man standing before them was none other than Vikir van Baskerville. The triplets were left utterly mortified by the revelation. The next day, Vikir stood on the castle bridge accompanied by the 3 triplets, who suggested that he could have stayed in the fortress VIP room. Vikir responded, saying that the accommodation fee would have gone to waste, so it was fine. "I always believed that you were still alive, Sir Vikir," said one of the triplets. Another chimed in, "and he came to see me first." This sparked an argument among the triplets once again. As requested the previous day, valuable news had been sent through the owl. As Vikir mounted his horse, he muttered to himself about how annoying the triplets were. As he readied himself to depart, the triplets pleaded with him to let them escort him. However, Vikir dismissed their offer, suggesting that they might have other obligations to attend to. The triplets quickly refuted this, claiming that they had no work to do and spent most of their time sleeping. Growing increasingly annoyed, Vikir resolved that upon his return, he would report to the Morg family that the individuals they had deployed were lazy. Before departing, Vikir noticed the absence of Camus Morg among them. He inquired to the triplets about her whereabouts and how she was doing. Camus is currently engrossed in her closed-door training, one of the triplets replied. She abruptly withdrew from Uncle Adolph's Hall of Light and entered the Hall of Darkness. She's putting all her efforts into magical research. The other two triplets appeared visibly shaken at the thought of Camus discovering their flirtations with Vikir. The mere idea of her finding out filled them with dread, as they feared they would face severe consequences, perhaps even being burnt at the stake. Surprised by this revelation, Vikir pondered, "The Hall of Darkness? Before I regressed, Camus Morg had a really bad relationship with the head of the Hall of Darkness. Is this another aspect of the future that I altered?" Without turning back to the triplets, he instructed them, "Tell Camus Morg that I want to see her when she has time, and tell her to leave the Hall of Darkness." Beads of sweat formed on the triplets' cheeks as they were stunned by Vikir's words. Even though he was in a relationship with Camus and was seeing her for the first time in 2 years, the hero of the Red All Mountain had returned. The news spread rapidly throughout the Empire. "Last time you came through the window, but this time, thankfully, you used the front door," remarked Chihuahua, acknowledging Vikir as the chief secretary. Vikir leaned against the wall near the window as he addressed Chihuahua, inquiring about the crowd gathered outside. "The news of Vikir's return has spread throughout the Empire. Everyone has come to welcome Vikir, Chief Secretary," Chihuahua replied. Vikir lifted a hand to his head, sighing as he noted that this was going to be tiring. Suddenly, the door to Chihuahua's office swung open, and Pamelian bounced in, calling out, "Daddy!" Upon seeing Pamelian, Vikir smiled and corrected, "Not Daddy, Uncle Pamelian." Pamelian lifted her hands up to Vikir, presenting him with a gift. "This is for you," she declared proudly. It was a dead mouse, albeit still a cute rodent. "Be careful not to catch the plague," Vikir warned Pamelian with a chuckle. Shifting his attention to Chihuahua, Vikir inquired about the status of the issues with the underdog. "Thanks to the introduction of Cindy Windy last time, it's been well resolved. She's quite capable," Chihuahua replied. However, there was one case that even Cindy Windy couldn't find any leads on. Opening a drawer, Chihuahua retrieved a file from a closed envelope marked as F10. "Recently, children in the slums have been disappearing one after another," Chihuahua explained. "It doesn't seem like kidnapping, as there's been no contact with the children's parents, and they haven't shown up on the black market either. It's hard to say it's the work of monsters, as the children disappeared without a trace. There's no evidence, but they believe it's the work of the same perpetrator." Opening the file, Vikir's irritation was visible as he read the letter, reflecting on the past regarding this case. It reminded him of an incident in Underdog City where numerous children had disappeared, a situation eerily similar to the false accusation pinned on him in his past life. However, he quickly realized that this was something that would happen decades later. Thinking it's related to what's happening now is. Vikir's thoughts abruptly halted when Pamelian called out, "Dad, Uncle, look at this." "Pamelian, your uncle is busy right now," Vikir said, turning to Pamelian, surprised by the interruption. The dead mouse suddenly came back to life and stood on Pamelian's arm, looking bewildered. Chihuahua and Vikir were shocked by this revelation and asked Pamelian if she had revived it. She confirmed, saying, "Yep." Vikir thought to himself that this was definitely corpse revival magic, using mana from the netherworld, a form of voodoo. Vikir then asked Pamelian when she had learned to do this. Uncertain, Pamelian counted on her fingers. "1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights maybe," she replied. She had seen the tribe people do it, so she copied them. Pamelian was discovered near the Rococo tribe's village. Could she have absorbed the Rococo tribe's dark magic and necromancy simply by observing? Typically, only geniuses from the Baskerville and Morg families could barely sense mana by the age of 8, yet Pamelian was utilizing Netherworld mana at just 5 years old, a magical prodigy from the Baskerville bloodline, a genius in black magic. Vikir pondered what Hugo would think of this. Mixing black magic with the blood of a barbarian tribe was tantamount to a death sentence. Hugo, being a cold-blooded man, would likely react predictably. Perhaps it was better to keep them apart. A white bird flew in through Chihuahua's window, delivering a letter. After reading the letter, Chihuahua called Vikir urgently. Frightened, Chihuahua held out the letter to Vikir, explaining that it was from the main patriarch and that the message was delivered calmly and clearly. "The patriarch is coming to Underdog City soon," Chihuahua announced with apprehension. Stepping out of the carriage, Hugo made his way to the City Hall mansion where Vikir resided. Tension filled the seating area as Chihuahua stood behind Vikir, sweating at the sight of Hugo. Barrymore stood behind Hugo, his expressionless face adding to the atmosphere. Vikir and Hugo took their seats and locked eyes, filling the room with silence. "You're back," Hugo remarked, to which Vikir replied simply, "I'm back." The tension in the room eased slightly with their exchange, much to Chihuahua's relief. With the sudden arrival of Hugo, this prompted Vikir and Chihuahua to hastily hide Pamelian in the next room. "Hopefully there won't be any trouble," Vikir thought to himself. Hugo inquired about Vikir's well-being, and Vikir explained that he had been focusing on recovering from injuries sustained while fighting Madam, as well as living with the barbarians during the flood. Vikir revealed that during his time with them, he pretended to be friendly to better understand the tribes and devised a strategy to eradicate them. Intrigued, Hugo asked about Vikir's strategy. Vikir explained that the plan involved using the Empire's goods to control the tribes. Items such as cheap glass beads, wool crafts, or even vegetables and grains held significant value to them, enabling effective manipulation. Hugo interjected, questioning if this approach was more of a trade than a conquest. Vikir disagreed, stating, "No, it's not. In this process, the barbarians will shed blood." With a bloodthirsty look, Vikir continued, "We plan to demand monster extermination in exchange for our goods." Understanding Vikir's motives, Hugo surmised that their plan involved making the barbarians fight monsters, causing them to bleed for their territorial expansion. "That's a clever plan," Hugo remarked, a smirk playing across his face with a menacing glint in his eyes. Indeed, Vikir was proving to be his son. Vikir continued, stating that he had already set up the infrastructure. Hugo replied, entrusting Vikir with the trade negotiations with the barbarians. Chihuahua, slightly baffled by the conversation between Vikir and Hugo after their reunion, observed the scene. Barrymore, straightening his glasses, couldn't help but think to himself. He noted how rare it was to see the Lord laughing like this, especially after Lord Vikir disappeared 2 years ago, when not even a slight smile was seen. Taking a sip of his tea, Vikir contemplated his concerns. He didn't want the natives of Balak to suffer under the rule of the Baskerville family. From the Baskervilles' perspective, it might seem like the natives were shedding blood fighting monsters, but in reality, they were reclaiming their lands where the danger had vanished. This strategy bought them time to prevent conflict with the Baskervilles and bolster Balak's power. Unaware of this nuance, Hugo would likely perceive the natives as easily cooperative, unaware that their strength as his adversaries was increasing. But Hugo interjected abruptly, stunning Vikir and Chihuahua with his menacing aura. He stated firmly that there would be no trade with the Rococo tribe ever. Hugo insisted that those barbarians must be exterminated. Chihuahua felt as if his soul had left his body under Hugo's pressure. Meanwhile, Vikir acknowledged Hugo's demand and confirmed it with a nod. It was evident that there was still resentment towards the Rococo tribe. Vikir reiterated to himself once again that he must not let Pamelian meet Hugo. Shifting the conversation, Hugo met with his son Vikir after a long time, yet their discussion revolved solely around unpleasant barbarian matters. "Son, don't push yourself too hard on the front lines," Hugo advised. He recalled how after Vikir rescued Morg's daughter and then disappeared, Morg gained significant diplomatic benefits. The royal family highly regarded this heroic deed and bestowed a knighthood upon the Baskervilles. However, for a father who had lost his son, what use was all that? There is no value in anything gained after losing a child. So don't push yourself too hard in the future, Hugo urged Vikir. Pondering over Hugo's words, Vikir came to believe that all of Hugo's statements were hypocritical. Reflecting on his previous life, Vikir recalled the night before his regression, fleeing while falsely accused. The memory of a blade stabbing him in the back and the cold stares of the hunting dogs he once shared hardships with flooded his mind. In that moment, Vikir painfully realized that he had been abandoned by his master. Hugo hadn't even given Vikir a chance to explain himself. Determined not to let such hypocrisy dull his resolve, Vikir vowed to sharpen his fangs. As rain poured and thunder rumbled outside the mansion, Hugo Le Baskerville maintained a deadpan expression as Vikir thanked his father for his concern. Amidst this tense reunion, the door suddenly slammed open, startling both Chihuahua and Vikir. It was Pamelian, visibly frightened, who ran towards Vikir for comfort, shaken by the thunder outside. Stunned to have Pamelian meet Hugo in this manner, Vikir watched as Hugo rose to his feet, muttering in disbelief. "How? That face!" Hugo exclaimed, his expression softening as he observed Pamelian's features. Hugo Le Baskerville, the master of the iron-blooded Baskerville family, stood as one of the 7 esteemed families of the Great Rock Empire. Known for his relentless pursuit of barbarians along the border, he was also renowned as the Empire's strongest sword saint, having slain hundreds of monsters throughout his illustrious career. Known for his unwavering decisions and ironclad resolve, Hugo was renowned as a man with iron blood, unwilling to change his mind once he made a decision. However, at this moment, Vikir was surprised to witness fluctuations in Hugo's emotions upon seeing Pamelian. Pamelian clung tightly to Vikir, frightened by the sound of thunder. Hugo called out to Penelope, but the child simply looked at Hugo before burying her face in Vikir, seemingly scared of Hugo's mustache. Vikir raised his hands, urging his father to calm down. He explained that he had personally brought the child here so that he could give her orders. Initially, Vikir had mistaken her for one of their own due to her red eyes, but upon further investigation, he discovered that she was from one of the tribes at the borders. "I don't think she's a family member," Vikir concluded. Composing himself, Hugo stated that it seemed he had been mistaken for a moment. He reasoned that there was no way Penelope would be that young if she were alive. Barrymore lifted his hands in a gesture of comfort towards the patriarch. Hugo attributed his momentary lapse to tiredness and suggested to Barrymore that they should head back now. "Head back safely," Vikir wished them. Vikir couldn't help but notice the unexpected shaken state of Hugo, who possessed the soul of a Swordmaster. Sensing that something was amiss, Vikir made a mental note. Before departing, Hugo turned his head to Vikir and invited him to attend tomorrow's grand banquet. "It's the dinner where only a select few of his closest descendants gather. It's the dream of all Baskerville members to attend that banquet," noted Chihuahua. Vikir accepted the invitation, acknowledging the significance of the event. Before Hugo left, he glanced at Pamelian, who was still frightened and cradled in Chihuahua's arms. In the middle of the night, after the storm had passed, Vikir found himself lying on the floor of his room. His bed was filled with pillows under the covers to create the illusion that he was sleeping soundly. Despite taking a hot shower and resting on a hard floor, Vikir found sleep elusive. The sensation felt foreign to him, as if his body couldn't adjust after living with the Balak warriors for 2 years. It seemed that it would take some time for him to acclimate to this comfort once again. Vikir reflected on Hugo's unexpected reaction earlier in the day. Contemplating whether to report to him about Pamelian and the pendant, Vikir made his decision based on Hugo's earlier response. He resolved to observe Hugo closely after tomorrow's grand banquet. Recognizing the potential significance of Pamelian as a trump card that could lead to Hugo's downfall, Vikir was determined to ensure that Pamelian remained unaffected by whatever events unfolded. A breeze from the window stirred Vikir awake as an unknown figure dressed in all black slipped through the window. Drawing her knife, the intruder crept closer to Vikir's bed. It hasn't even been a day, but information sure does spread fast, Vikir remarked. With swift reflexes, Vikir sprang up from his bed, using one hand to steady himself on the bed as he delivered a round kick towards the intruder. The force of the kick knocked the intruder off balance, causing her to lose grip of her weapon, which flew from her hands and embedded itself into the wall. With his menacing red aura emanating around him, Vikir raised his hand, positioning it like a knife under the intruder's throat. Startled, the intruder gestured that it was all a jest, prompting Vikir to release his aura. "Oh, it's you," Vikir remarked. "Next time, request an audience before sneaking in. It would have been unfortunate if I had mistaken you for an enemy." Observing Vikir, Cindy added, "You still have that peculiar habit of disguising your pillow as yourself and sleeping on the floor. You haven't changed, despite returning from the dead." The intruder, her mouth now uncovered, responded. Removing her mask, Cindy Wendy greeted Vikir van Baskerville, acknowledging the long time since they had last met. Vikir had dispatched Secretary Chihuahua to seek out Cindy. She expressed her refusal to accept the $10 billion offered. Cindy elaborated on her ability to amplify the wealth of capitalists, build trust, and ultimately squander it all, aspects that Vikir had taken into consideration. Seated on Vikir's bed, Cindy explained her role as a financial planner, highlighting that she solely received commissions for her services. She emphasized that without her intervention, a young girl named Judy would have squandered the $10 billion Vikir had entrusted to her. Vikir, in the process of putting his shirt back on, mentioned that he had assigned bodyguards to Judy to prevent such mishaps. Surprised, Cindy expressed doubt, stating that the bodyguards wouldn't necessarily intervene in such matters. Among the bodyguards stood a finance expert whom Vikir had tasked with screening out any troublemakers. However, these bodyguards refrained from intervening with Cindy. This was because Vikir explicitly instructed them not to approach her. Cindy realized that she had been under Vikir's control right from the start. Changing the subject while adjusting his hair, Vikir inquired about the information he had requested from Cindy. Cindy retrieved the documents from her cat suit and handed them over to Vikir. With a serious expression, Vikir remarked that Cindy's demeanor had changed significantly since 2 years ago. He advised her to submit reports in a folder next time. As promised, Cindy granted Vikir permission to partake in the trade with the natives and jokingly suggested calling him boss from now on. The information Cindy provided pertained to the attendees of the upcoming banquet. Vikir understood that he would receive an invitation to the grand event as long as he made a significant contribution. Hugo Le Baskerville holds the esteemed rank of patriarch within the Baskerville family, also bearing the status of Marquis. Renowned for his military prowess, he is esteemed as a Swordmaster. It is worth noting that his lineage includes all direct descendants from single mothers, illegitimate children, the collateral bloodline, and adopted children. The total number of his offspring remains undisclosed. Vikir glanced at the information, realizing there was no necessity for him to delve into details about Hugo. Flipping through the pages, he soon stumbled upon the list of names of those who would be attending the banquet. Bastonterier Le Baskerville. Rank: Commander of the Pitbull Order. Great Dome Le Baskerville. Rank: Commander of the Mastiff Order. Vikir pondered aloud. They don't attend internal house events, so why are they attending this one? Cindy offered her perspective. Isn't it to meet the young legend of the Baskerville clan who came back from the dead? They probably wanted to take Vikir into their own orders. Vikir acknowledged, foreseeing the upcoming event strain. Tomorrow is going to be quite an exhausting event. As he continued to flip through the pages, a particular name caught his attention: Osiris Le Baskerville. Rank: Member of the Lower House. Cindy interjected, describing the eldest son who bore a striking resemblance to Hugo since his youth. His swordsmanship has already reached the level of the 7 counts, and he's on track to become a Swordmaster soon. Vikir recalled observing Osiris from a distance before his regression. He's a cold and reserved individual, rarely acknowledging even his own subordinates, let alone his younger siblings of the direct bloodline. Cindy continued, noting Osiris's standing within the Baskerville clan. Excluding the Patriarch and the 7 Counts, he's the strongest member, unless Vikir surpasses him. Attempting to avoid Cindy's inquiry, Vikir cautioned, "Don't try to assess our combat abilities, Cindy." As Vikir reviewed another set of information, his attention was caught by another individual. This person, who had been undergoing isolation training, was returning to attend the grand banquet. Set Baskerville. Rank: member of the lower house and consul of Underdog City. Set Baskerville, in contrast to his elder brother, lacked talent in swordsmanship and was considered weak from a young age. His personality stood out among the Baskervilles, gentle and kind-hearted. During his youth, he faced persecution from Hugo due to his perceived weakness. While others viewed the Bloodhounds as disposable, Set was the only one who shed tears for them. Among the Baskerville family, he was the only person Vikir respected. The prospect of meeting Set at this time was unexpected, yet welcomed by Vikir. Growing annoyed, Cindy exerted effort in her investigations, yet Vikir merely glanced at them briefly. Unbeknownst to her, Vikir was already familiar with the individuals she had researched. With a menacing gleam in his eye, Vikir anticipated that the grand banquet tomorrow would bring about many intriguing developments.